What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's Filthiest Pitches of the Day. Remember, before we get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Join Ninja Nation, the best baseball community on YouTube. And now, without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start with Nestor Cortez, who had 3 Ks in 5 innings, giving up 2 earned runs. He wasn't particularly sharp, but he did have these elevated cutters, including this one where he got to bend the knee. Had this 92-mile-an-hour fastball that was paint-ish, and also had this fantastic play where he fell on his butt. Nestor is a PFP king. Of course, if he let it go, one of his infielders probably would have had it, but it wouldn't have looked as good. He battled against Shane Bieber, not Justin.
Justin Bieber, just threw his 84th pitch.
I'm looking at you, Bob Costas. And Bieber dominated with a combination of fastballs, cutters, and sliders. Interestingly, he only threw 9 knuckle curves, and I'll get into that a little bit more later. Here's an overlay of Bieber's 93-mile-an-hour fastball and 86-mile-an-hour slider, and you can see why that combination is so deadly. Judge thinks he's swinging at a fastball, but gets the slider instead, and the whiff. I mentioned I'd get into Bieber not throwing his knuckle curve. Well, he actually told me that he improved his slider because the Yankees were taking his knuckle curve when he faced them in the playoffs a couple years ago. Here's Bieber talking about that and also his slider grip.
I feel like my slider was hit or miss last year. It could have showed up in a big way in that playoff start against the Yankees. They took a lot of really good breaking balls on the plate. And I think that's what they were just trying to do. They were trying to see it as long as possible because my out of zone, swing and miss rate was pretty high last year. And so, they eliminated that curveball pretty well. And I wasn't able to, my slider wasn't showing up. It was kind of just like a crappy curveball. And so this year I'm right on that horseshoe with some, I'd say the thumb is just in a natural spot, whatever feels most comfortable. And I'm just working on my takeaway, not letting it get out, just keeping everything nice and tight.
Notably, this game was full of painted extended strike zones. We'll call this the Ninja Zone. Where are robo-umps when you need them? Spencer Strider had 4 Ks in 2 1/3 innings, and he started out throwing flames and had these wicked sliders. He definitely looked like healthy Spencer Strider at the beginning. Here's an overlay of his 99-mile-an-hour fastball and 86-mile-an-hour slider, and you can see why that would give you fits. But a little later in this outing, it all kind of fell apart. Strider gave up a bomb to Hoskins on a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, kind of right down the dick. According to MLB's David Adler, this tied for the slowest fastball of Strider's career. It also led to an epic bat spike. I put a tail on the bat so you can see the bat's movement. Filthy. That bat had 56 inches of vertical drop and a spin rate of only 20 RPMs. We're talking knuckle bat territory. I love when players play with emotion, even if they are lowly hitters. But they interviewed Walker Buehler after the game, and here's what he said he would do if Hoskins flipped the bat like that.
Man, I gotta put you on the spot in the train station. Right. So if you're pitching to me and I backflip you like that and slam the bat down, are you cutting bacon off me the next time out, or you just gonna let that one ride the ground far go?
We're kind of coming close. I always say make them smell one.
Oh, okay, make them smell one. I like that. We'll use that.
Strider was outdueled by Aaron Nola, who had 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 5 hits and no earned runs. Nola dominated with his knuckle curves and 2-seamers. Those knuckle curves were filthy, and check out the movement of these 2-seamers. This 2-seamer ran 21 inches. That's disgusting. And here's one that ran 18 inches, and I decided to put a tail on it so you can see that movement. Crazy. Here's some fastball and curveball overlays, and you can see why that pitch combination would shut a team down. Nola doesn't have a big loopy curveball, so it looks just like a fastball, and then dives out of the swing path. Tony Gonsolin didn't look very sharp. He did get 1 K on this slider. The crazy Catman was outdueled by Blake Snell, who tied as my filthiest pitcher of the day. It's hard to choose between him and Nola. Snell dominated with his combination of mid to upper 90s fastballs, vicious sliders, and nasty curveballs. Here's some overlays that show how those work together. Here's an overlay of a 98-mile-an-hour fastball and a 90-mile-an-hour slider. And here's a 96 mile an hour fastball and a 90 mile an hour slider. And finally, I love this overlay because it shows why you might take a 97 mile an hour fastball in the zone for a backwards K. Turner had just taken 3 consecutive breaking balls in the dirt. So you can see why he took this low 97 mile an hour fastball in the zone, because it looked just like this curveball that he had taken in the dirt. It travels on the same trajectory as the curveball, but instead of diving to the dirt, it catches the zone. Just another little tunneling trick. Now onto my filthiest relievers. Trevor Stephan had these wicked sliders and splitters. James Karinchak had these elevated fastballs. Lou Trevino had this slider and fastball. Wandy Peralta had this dirty changeup. Nick Martinez had this fastball. Robert Suarez had this 99 mile an hour elevated heat. Andrew Heaney had these wicked sliders. Evan Phillips had this nasty cutter and this slider and fastball. And here's another sequence with an overlay that shows why you might take a fastball in the zone after swinging at a slider out of the zone. You don't want to get fooled again by swinging at a slider out of the zone. Instead, you get fooled differently. Luis Garcia had this sick 83 mile an hour slider, and this 101 mile an hour heat may have been out of the zone, but we'll count it. Tommy Kahnle had these nasty changeups. Jose Alvarado had his filthy cutter and two-seamers. And here's some overlays that show you how those two pitches work together. Yensei Almonte had these wicked sliders and sinker. And here's an overlay of those two. Emmanuel Clase had this filth. My filthiest reliever from yesterday was Josh Hader, who made this House of the Dragon-like entrance on a massive goose. Haters and Hater will say it's fake. And then dominated with this ridiculous 93 mile an hour changeup and 99 mile an hour fastball. I pronounce Josh Hader, annihilator of hitters and king of the seven kingdoms, fully back. And now, my pitching ninja moment of Zen. Soto's hips don't lie.
I'm starting to feel it's right. All the attraction, the tension. Don't you see, baby, this is perfection.
What is up, Ninja Nation? My picks of the day today are a 4-leg parlay, and we're going 5s across the board. I'm going to start out with Charlie Morton for 5Ks or more, then take Lance McCullers for 5Ks or more, and top it off with the same game parlay of Luis Severino for 5Ks or more, and Tristan McKenzie for 5Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?